Where are we today, Phil?
Resolution Fort, Steve.
And what happened here?
Well, first let me tell you, the hand you just saw with the musket balls and pistol balls were found in a garden by a resident, and they date from the Civil War, and they were interesting to see because you never know where they came from or who had them or why they were left at this garden. We're at Resolution Fort today because it marks the northeast corner of the inner or town line that defended Plymouth during the Civil War, the early days. Now, the reason we are here is when Plymouth, if you remember the last videos we did, we were talking about why Plymouth fought for the crown, fought against the crown. Now I'm going to talk about the defences. In late August 1642, the Plymouth Council raised money in plate to put in a system of defences for Plymouth. Now, they started on an inner line to connect all the gates that went in and out of town. This was called the town line, and it ran from Eastgate, down near the Barbican, to a place that became known as Maidenhead Fort, and up to Resolution Fort, which we see here. This is the back part of Resolution Fort, the lower piece. It extended far into Beaumont Park, and then it ran down north of Ebrington Street to Gascon Gate. Now, the reason this line was put in place was Plymouth was rarely threatened from the land side. All our defences were faced the sea, because any threat to Plymouth usually came from across the channel. France, Spain, pirates. So all the town's defences faced seawards. The Civil War changed all that. When Cornwall declared for the king in 1642, the defence of Plymouth, the people of Plymouth decided to build a defence line, an inner line. Now, this was quickly built up of earth with gun platforms, and a lot of the cannons that were needed here were taken off the seafront. All the forts along the seafront at Fisher's Nose, Devil's Point, there was a continuous line. Those cannons were taken up, brought up here and placed at strategic points. And then the Committee of Plymouth thought, hang on a second, if the Royalists came to Plymouth and they took the high ground, which is now Mount Gould Road, North Road East, North Road West, Clifton Place, that area, they could put cannon up there and bombard this inner line. So this line became a secondary line. And a new line was started on the high ground. The major forts, most of the money used was used for that line. So they brought more cannons, took most of the cannons up there. This became a secondary line, but it was not neglected. It was never really threatened, but it was never neglected. All through the Civil War, money was paid out to strengthen this inner line, the town line.
Phil, what would we have seen back in the day, standing where we are, looking outwards?
Behind us was the old ruins of the Whitefriars Monastery.
So, Phil, they would be basically somewhere down there towards Smith's.
Yeah, Smith's, yeah.
That's the shop, yes.
There's a picture of what it looked like in its sort of dilapidated state.
Right, that
was the Whitefriars.
And looking in front of us,
looking northwards.
We're looking up a hill, aren't we, Phil?
We are. We're looking up high ground. Oh, there'd be no trees because all the trees would have been gone, used for gun platforms, for palisading, for firewood. So all this would be open area. And in 1642, late 1642, if you stood here, you'd be seeing this first wall going up, earth reinforced with wood, and the few guns. Higher up, you'd see Plymouthians, many Plymouthians and the soldiers and sailors from the fleet throwing up a main line, an outer line, and they were doing it quickly because the threat from Cornwall, when Rolf Hopton came here in late November 1642 and went to Plympton, that threat was real. So they had to get it up quickly.
So this defensive position here was made here of stone?
No.
Outside it was not just earth, wasn't it?
It was earth early on. I'm going to talk about the stone part a bit later because that didn't come in right away because there was no money. They just wanted a quick ring of forts around Plymouth and an outer work. So this gives you a rough idea what the forts look like. This would be Eastgate down near the Barbican. This is the Friary. Maidenhead, Resolution Fort. It's straight, but it never ran straight. It sort of zigzagged up, went up towards Gasking Gate next, and Terra Fort, which stood nearby, which is all gone now.
That's sort of Ebrington Street way, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't follow Ebrington Street. It goes into BEAUMONT Park.
Right.
There is a ditch for this. Resolution Fort had a ditch around it, and gives you an idea. And part of this ditch you can still see today in BEAUMONT Park, which has never been examined at all. But we'll be walking along here. This is Ebrington Street. Then it goes up towards Northgate. Gasking Gate is very close here. So we'll have a look at that. There's Gasking Gate, Northgate or Terra Fort. All right.
It's a totally fascinating story.
Thank you,
isn't it?
Steve.
Because this actually happened here.
It is,
and
yeah.
I would have thought, if we stood here back in the day, where we're standing, who would be standing here?
A few soldiers, people building, workmen coming up, bringing bits and pieces up, women bringing food up for their husbands here. A lot of people would be in this area in those days. But it became a secondary line. The main forts, like I said, were up the top. So there'd only be a small guard down here. And I wonder where those musket balls were found. It's fascinating. No. And what else is out there?
Oh, it makes you wonder what's under our feet. What
Our shoes.
is under your shoes today?
Yeah.
But that's the story of the city. The history is just hidden.
It is.
Thank you very much, Phil. Thank you.
You're very welcome.